What up, brawlers? Welcome back to a special episode of Throwin Hands. I'm Jakob Janowski. Alongside me, per usual, is Daniel Woods. Daniel, how are you?
I'm doing good, Jacob. How are you?
I'm great, thanks. And we have a special guest on today. We have Zak Cummings, UFC contender. How are you doing, my man?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Thanks for having me on.
All right, so we're just gonna hop right into this. How'd you get your start in MMA?
Whew. Mainly just kind of been in sports my whole life with wrestling in college for a little bit. Had a bad knee injury. Just kind of trying to find something to fill a void in my life that was missing out. And mixed martial arts, jujutsu, all that kind of did it. And then the competition side started presenting itself and kind of ran with it from there.
Okay, so when you started your career, you got off to a 10-0 start. What type of momentum and confidence does that bring to the table for you?
I mean, yeah, there was definitely a lot of confidence in there. I went undefeated as an amateur as well. I had 6 amateur fights and then 10-0 as a pro. Even back then, it was just a hobby. It's something I did on the side. I was going to school to become a physical therapist, and it was just kind of one of those where I worked like 3 jobs, trained, went to school. Just a really busy college life, and it was just something I loved to do and did for my free time. And then just kind of the fights started getting a little higher profile, a little more serious, a little more pay, and just as we kind of progressed through, it just kind of took over my life. Like, it was never the plan to kind of make a career out of this, but kind of kind of what happened. So so I'm grateful for it. But yeah, it wasn't really planned, but definitely started off. I think it took me like somewhat. I fought Terry Martin, who was in the UFC. Back then I had no idea even how to get in the UFC, how to even like really have that contact at all and stuff. And it was a whole nother level is what you thought. So me being able to fight someone who's competed at that level and go out and have a pretty dominant victory, I felt, it kind of was a reassurance that, I was good. I could actually do this thing, but it still didn't really hit home till years later, honestly.
So the early part of your career, kind of in terms of time, it seems like kind of coincided with MMA becoming like more of a mainstream sport in the United States. What was that like, being a part of something that was growing so fast early in your career?
Yeah, it's one of those where, like, you look back at it now and it really makes sense like that. But at the time, you're just flowing with it. It's just, it was a hobby. It was just something I was doing. And like I said before, like, I had no idea how to get in the UFC. Like, I thought like you had to train with like Pat Miletich or, one of those Team Quest, or like that's the only gyms that basically would like get last second replacements, get people in the UFC, and that was about it. I was in a little town in Springfield, Missouri, and had basically no clue. And then the Ultimate Fighter kind of helped out. That was a big deal, of basically the only access to get in really is to like go through the Ultimate Fighter tryouts and see that and kind of grow with that process. My teammate Michael Johnson, he was able to get in on like season 11 or something like that. I don't remember, but and when he was actually able to make the show, did well and got in the UFC, like that opened my eyes a little bit more that, hey, like this could be a possibility and everything. So just, yeah, as the years progressed, it was a little more eye-opening that that it could be a real thing. Like it could happen. You can make it in there just by putting your head down, putting in the work and stuff, not anything crazy. And then now, man, it's a whole nother ball game. There's a massive entertainment aspect to the sport. It's on ESPN. I mean especially like right now with all the COVID stuff happening, it was the only sport on TV for a while. So being able to be a part of it and kind of see the growth has been pretty amazing. But like as you're going through it, you don't realize it. It's just one of the things, you're just kind of doing it, you're in it, and you're seeing the changes around you, but you don't see how big changes they were. And then now you look back at it, you're like, oh shit, man, that was it's kind of crazy. So it's been special to be a part of it, and everything. Like now I own a gym, I coach, and try to tell some of these younger guys, like we kind of have the recipe, to be successful in this sport and how to make it these next levels and everything. And it's, we can not take shortcuts, but we can definitely put you on a more accurate path than what we kind of went on.
So you get off to this 10-0 start, and you kind of hit more of a mainstream promotion when you head over to Strikeforce. What'd you learn in going into a bigger, larger promotion that coming from a smaller circuit? What'd you learn about competition, about how your fighting style would progress?
When I can take an ass whooping. I mean, I fought for Bellator as well. I had a fight for Bellator and first round win and everything, and had that. But more of the spotlight. So when I got in Strikeforce, they were wanting to build me. I signed this big contract and everything that I thought I made it. I thought everything was great. And then I go out and try to do them a favor and fight Tim Kennedy main event on Showtime on a week notice. I was floating down the river having a beer when I got the phone call. And again, we're talking about that 10-0 confidence, right? Or 16-0 confidence. That had a lot to play in. I thought I was unbeatable. I thought, just no matter what I did, I was going to step in and find a way to win. And man, I was very wrong on that. I mean, I felt confident going in. I felt good going in. I just I completely overlooked Tim Kennedy on how good he really was and that level of competitor. And he proved me wrong and humbled me, and it showed me that I had a long way to go. And if this is something I wanted to do serious, I really needed to make some changes in my life and training, just the way I was living and everything. So it was a huge eye opener. I still think, grateful that it happened and thankful and stuff. And, if you're going to take your first loss, taking it someone like Tim Kennedy was probably about the best thing you can do. He's not much better of a type of person than he is. But yeah, I mean, it definitely was eye opening. You get in there, and then it was just a learning process, going to the next and the next and the next. And, by the time I got in the UFC, I knew I was ready.
So that Bellator fight, the next year after the loss to Tim Kennedy, you come out and you pick up a submission win, Darce choke in the first round. What was the feeling after that fight? Did you feel like you had kind of gotten some kind of redemption, being able to take another step onto a big stage and pull it off in a spectacular way that time?
Yeah, for sure. It was one of those where the Tim Kennedy thing happened. I took another fight, and again, just completely overlooked somebody. Wasn't even training hard. Just kind of just thought I was gonna go in there and do my thing, and I'm losing a 5-round decision. So I took two. I did 16-0, and then I took 2 losses in a row. It was like, man, maybe I'm not cut out for this. Maybe this isn't it. The run's over, whatever. I get this phone call, and to fight for Bellator, and it was, yeah, I was like, okay, they're trying to get me, when I'm down on myself and everything, and I had a lot to prove, so I made a lot of changes for that fight and went out first round submission with the Darce, and yeah, that feeling definitely kind of brought me back to my love for the sport, my love for competition, and knowing that I need to stay on this path.
So part of that Bellator win was a 5 out of 6 wins. You won 5 out of 6, and you get to the Ultimate Fighter. What experiences from the Ultimate Fighter have you taken that you've learned from?
For me, the Ultimate Fighter was amazing. It was so like I said before, going through this whole process, I was going to school full time. I was trying, I was doing all pre stuff so I can get into the doctorate program of physical therapy. And then, I worked at a nightclub. I worked at a hospital during the day. I did some security stuff, and I worked at a whatever that place is called. It's like a community center type place, like a gym. So it was a lot. It was like 3 part-time jobs. I mean, I worked a lot. I was really busy. So it was, I was just always on the go, and I was very busy through everything, and everything's kind of half-assed. When I got in the Ultimate Fighter, that was like my first moment where I got to live, breathe, eat, sleep, everything like full-time fighter. I got to wake up, have a healthy breakfast, go get a hard practice in with some other high-level guys, go back, relax, eat, chill, go back, practice again, come back, relax, recover, and do it all over again. I was very thankful for the other cast that I had. Most of the Ultimate Fighter shows, you've got some of those shitheads that are just there for the camera, just they want to get drunk, make an ass of themselves, start fights and everything. And we just didn't have that. We had everybody there that they all had the same goal in mind, the same mission. They all wanted to make that level and be some of the best guys in the world. Which is probably why that season ended up being, probably one of the best seasons, of tough history. Still some top level guys, Uriah Hall, Kelvin Gastelum. There's a lot of good guys and stuff that came out of that season. So just having that experience and everything it changed my life. It definitely, I was on Chael's team. I had Chael, who was one of the top guys in the world at middleweight, going to fight John Jones at light heavyweight. He brought in Yushin Okami, who was ranked like 3rd or 4th at the time. So I'm training with some of the best guys in the world, and, practice is practice, but I mean, like, be able to like hold my own and hang, like prove to myself, like, hey, I deserve this. I belong here. I'm good enough to hang with these guys. Let's give this a shot. And then, even though I came up a little bit short in the house, everybody was so impressed that they signed the entire cast to the UFC and had your shot there. And then, and I'm one of the few that's still kind of here and hanging around right now. So, I took full advantage of it.
Let's talk a little bit about getting onto the UFC roster there after the Ultimate Fighter. Your first fight came August 2013, Fight Night, Condit versus Compman 2. But before you debuted on the UFC roster, you moved to welterweight for that fight and stayed there for the first part of your time in the UFC. What was behind that change? Why did you change weight classes, and what did that do for you early on in the UFC?
So the Bellator fight we talked about was actually a catch weight of 180. I always thought that I might be able to do 170. I fought pretty regular, so like it was, and I cut a lot of weight and everything. So it was like I could take fights and fight pretty often at 185. I was gonna have to do everything perfect and right for 170. I actually tried out for a couple Ultimate Fighter seasons at 170. They just thought I was too big. So the season before that was welterweight. I was actually out there for tryout, or it was invite only. The producers, we kind of had a conversation, and we decided that I might be a little bit too big just to be able to make that weight over and over again. So I made middleweight the next season. I was supposed to fight on the finale, either January maybe or something like that, at 185, and I ended up blowing my hamstring out. So when I had that downtime to be able to do everything, I brought on my nutritionist, Tyler Minton. He was a buddy of mine I met through the Ultimate Fighter process, and he kind of like was not begging me, but just like we kept having these conversations. That's where his passion was nutrition, and kind of we just have this conversation like, hey man, like I think I can get you middle or to welterweight, like trust me, let's try this, see how it works out. And man, he was so right. That first cut to 170 was everything was on point. It was great. I felt phenomenal, and it really, that kind of, not the like, oh hey, I made him because he's so smart, but a lot of people around me saw the change and everything, and I think that really started bringing on more clients in for Tyler, and now he's one of the best nutritionists in the game. So just throughout the years, getting a little bit older and everything, I mean, I cut a lot of weight through wrestling. It just got rough, so I needed to go back to middleweight, but I had like like 9 or 10 fights at welterweight, and it was a struggle towards the end. I wrestled in college at 174, 184, 174, so I knew I can get down there, and when I was wrestling, the risk really wasn't worth the reward a little bit. It was one of those where, you had to make weight, but then an hour later you're competing. And the way I was getting my body down to that weight class was rough. So I was thinking with with MMA, okay, I have 24 hours. I can like kill myself to get down there, but then the next day I compete, I might feel a little bit better. And that was the case for a while. And then, you know, a little bit later in my welterweight career, my performances were definitely hindered by the weight cut. And you know, me and my coach Mark Montoya, and then my teammate and friend James Krause, we kind of had those conversations with each other and just say, hey man, like screw this, let's go up. It's not like I'm getting manhandled. I've never really been like thrown around at middleweight either, so I don't think the strength was the problem. So we just kind of quit cutting as much and did the thing at 185. And you know, I'm thankful now. It's I feel a lot better. I feel like I can let myself go, and I'm still mentally getting over the welterweight stuff. So I'm kind of excited now of like adding in more volume to my game, at, you know, being able to push that higher gear and go, because I couldn't do that at welterweight. I was so worried about just my body shutting down and gassing out. But yeah.
So about in the middle part of your welterweight part of your career in the UFC, the Reebok deal hit. How did that affect you personally?
Me personally, not a huge deal. You know, I was still pretty new, and I was always like on the lower half of the card and stuff. So like like if you weren't really main card anyways, the sponsors weren't great. I'm not a massive, you know, social media personality. So I mean, like the sponsor, like, yeah, I probably lost some money on sponsors, but I didn't really have to work for it. You know, instead of having to go and promise all this shit and do everything and jump through hoops to get sponsors, it was just like, okay, here's your money given to you. I definitely lost some money, but it wasn't like a massive amount. You know, you start getting some of these bigger fights, or like, you know, whatever, you start getting higher in the main card stuff. Yeah, that stuff starts adding up, but I wouldn't like someone who like Cowboy Cerrone and all these guys, you know, McGregor and all these guys had all these massive deals that they kind of got screwed from it. So it wasn't a huge deal for me. Just kind of like took it, ran with it, and didn't really try to think too negative on it. Just kind of accepted it and went forward. But I definitely knew personally some people and everything. I saw it screw a lot of people, but for me, it wasn't that big of a deal.
So a little bit of a technique question here. One of your big calling cards has been your submission game. 12 of your 23 wins have come by submission. You've got Darce chokes, rear naked chokes, arm bars, guillotines. How was that something that came easy to you once you started MMA? Something that came easy to add to your wrestling background, or was that something that it took a long time for you to develop?
It came pretty easy at first. You know, I had the wrestling background, and then there was a couple submissions that really kind of hit home with me and caught on. I was really good at early. The Darce was one. So I had a technique I used in wrestling a lot, and I guess you call it, like, I don't know, Japanese necktie or wizard, whatever you want to call it. But basically, I would use it to kind of like fold people over and pin them. And I use that as a lot. So I used to do it even in MMA, and then I was taught the Darce. So it was like, oh, I do this, and the Darce is there, and like it just kind of became my calling card for a while. And you know, and obviously, like any typical wrestler, I think like arm triangle stuff like that's going to be big. Getting someone's back rear naked choke. I had when I was wrestling in college, one of my roommates actually trained jiu-jitsu, so I'd always play around with him and stuff, even though I didn't really know a lot, and kind of learned some stuff. And so it just, yeah, definitely caught on. I felt way more comfortable on the ground than I did standing at first, and everything. And then I feel like just throughout the years progressed, I became really good at finding submissions and scrambles. So instead of just like having to like technically set everything up, I found I did really good at funneling people throughout scrambles. So like I would make them move certain ways, so I knew the submission was going to present itself after they made certain movements. And I feel like that's what's really helped me out in the MMA game, because it's everybody's so good now. It's like it's hard to technically just like walk someone through your series. But if you can funnel them into a scramble or funnel them into they can only move certain, so many ways. I know what options those are going to be, and can find my submission. So I think that's the biggest thing with me, my submission game. It's just the ability to find stuff in scrambling. And then as I kind of started trusting my power in my hands more, I don't really have to worry about wrestling. I can hit people hard and then cause them to take shots and find my submissions off their takedown attempts.
How would you say your wrestling improves upon your jiu-jitsu or vice versa?
I'm still a pretty firm believer that, having a wrestling background is going to be the best thing you could possibly have getting into the sport. Not just because I started wrestling, but my thought process on this is, you start wrestling on your feet, you have to learn how to move people to set them up to take them down, and then you also learn the grappling aspect, the ground wrestling, top and bottom, how to get out, how to escape, how to control a human body, and get them pinned down to where they can't move. So there's definitely some opposites and everything, but learning how to move somebody to set a takedown up on your feet, you already kind of know how to move somebody, so you can start setting there. Once you start understanding striking, you can use that same type of concept of movement to pick up striking, which is a whole nother ball game, but at least the movement and that aspect of it, you already kind of have down. Same thing with jiu-jitsu. So whenever you're in wrestling, sometimes the way you're putting pressure will open yourself up for submissions. Once you kind of get that stuff figured out and everything, it helps, but you already have that ability to control people. You already have that understanding, and not even worrying about someone else. Going through wrestling allows you, or it forces you to teach yourself how to move your body in unnatural movements. And when you're able to teach your body how to move, it's so much easier to pick up new techniques and learn more things. So, obviously you can do that through any other martial art, but, wrestling really kind of hit home because it's on your feet and on the ground. So you get a little bit of both, and have that ability to either use your takedown defense to keep things standing, or you get your takedowns to get the fight to the ground. So I'm still a pretty firm believer that's the best background you can have, but there's still a lot more to it that you have to be able to add to that game if you want to make it to a high level.
Especially with the UFC, kind of like you said, being the only game in town for American sports the last couple months, there's some things coming back now, but especially with that going on, do you see MMA becoming a more mainstream sport in the United States?
I definitely think it helps. Whenever that's the only sport on TV, and you've got these people that's been stuck in home for months and going crazy and just want some type of entertainment, and all of a sudden you're flipping through channels and two guys are in there fighting. You're like, okay, I can get down with this. You're normally I'd be wanting to watch something else, but if that's what's on, it's it's a thing. It's if that's the only thing that's an option, people's gonna start watching it, and then they watch that first show that happened. They're like, oh, hey, next week we're having another. And you're like, you know what? Screw you. I'll watch the other one. We'll start doing this, or you start finding these new fans and everything that are liking these guys and their style, and not only were they the first ones, but they've been super consistent and busy and having shows damn near every week. So I think it's going to be a big thing for the sport. I think it's going to add a lot of new fans. I'm sure some will fall off when the other sports come in if they have to pick between the two. But yeah, it's definitely not going to hurt the deal at all. They're going to, I think it added a whole new genre of fans and new faces and stuff for us. And it's a shit deal, but I definitely am kind of thankful that it did kind of happen like that. And I think it's going to help our sport grow a lot more.
So you're fighting in 4 weeks. What have you been doing to prepare over the past year since that loss and this long, about a year layoff? What have you been doing to prepare?
Man, I've been in fight camp this whole time. I feel like, you're with the quarantine. I took a little bit of time off, but I was supposed to fight in January, and opponent wouldn't take the fight against me. They couldn't get someone else, so it got switched. Then I was supposed to fight Andrew Sanchez in towards the end of April. So I was I was training for January, and then I was training for Sanchez, and I think it's gonna be like, I don't know, in Nebraska somewhere. Yeah, so I mean, I was out training for that, preparing. The world almost ended. Everything kind of crazy happened, and then I came back home, and it was completely different because, you know, I'm like traveling, training, like in, you know, crazy mode of just being focused on that. And then I had this short little break of like just being home with my daughter all day, spending time with family, my wife, my dogs, just like staying active, but active in a different way. And I feel like I've been on the go like my whole career, just nonstop, either traveling and coaching or, you know, competing myself or training, whatever it's been. And having that moment of like life clarity and slow life down and see kind of what my future is going to hold when I'm done was really special. But it also kind of gave me the outlook of like, okay, this is kind of what I have to look for a little bit more when I'm done. So let's go all in on until that time comes, and then let's go back to this. And this is going to be like the greatest thing ever. So as soon as I was able to kind of get out of the house and get back in the gym, I mean, I've been head down, grinding, putting the work in, and just can't wait to get back in there and compete and fight again. I hate losing. I hate coming off, you know, not great performances. And that's why I wanted to get back in January. I mean, I immediately wanted to get back in and fight. I want to get back in January. It didn't happen. April, and now I got to wait till, you know, the end of August. So I just want to get back in there and, you know, get that little sour taste out of my mouth and put on a new show, a new performance.
All right. So looks like we're gonna wrap up here. Where can people find you on social media, my man?
At Zak Cummings on, you know, pretty much everything around the platform. Shoot me a message. I try to respond and talk to everybody that reaches out. I figure if you spend the time to come out and send me a message, then you earn my respect and support to come out and talk to you guys. So I don't want to try not to ignore everybody and everything. So ZAK at Zak Cummings, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whatever, Snapchat, everything. I'm on all of them. You know, Instagram is obviously the one I use the most, but yeah, check me out, follow me, and watch this journey to the end of the month, and we'll go out there and put on a good show.
All right. Well, Zak, thank you for coming on, man. We really appreciate it. And we will see you guys in another episode.